All right, good evening, guys. I'm back. This time we're going to talk about some libertarian news and just politics in general. Sorry about that. I was pulling up my YouTube mobile app on my tablet. Yeah, so as you guys can see, I only have subscribers mode only, so only subs can leave a message in the chat. If you're a sub, go ahead and leave a 7 in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Apparently, the sound is pretty good, so I think we're all set to go. But if you are tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from, what state you're from, and go ahead and leave a 7. And I hope you guys are doing all great. Praise the Lord. Ahoy, matey, said Rafael Rodriguez. God bless, man. Welcome. Welcome to the live stream, bro. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. New York, New York. Yes, sir. Just around the corner from where I'm from, North Jersey. So, got a lot of Northeast folks in the chat already so far, so that's great. We're all from the same part of the world, and praise the Lord. So yeah, guys, this is not going to be anything about preaching. It's not going to be about the gospel, soul winning, or anything. We're going to talk about politics for a little bit because I haven't touched on this for a little while. But I do like talking about politics once in a blue. My channel is not geared toward politics, but it's something I like to rant about once in a while. But we got a lot of interesting news today, so there's just a bit about everything we're going to talk about. There's talks about Doge. There's talks about just stupid things Trump is doing, some bad decisions he's making right now, whole bunch of stuff. And we as American people, we should be concerned. We should be worried. Like I said, I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a mega guy. I'm not a liberal. None of that stuff. I don't pick either side. I criticize both parties because they're both doing messed up jobs. And you're going to see why I think that way. But let me just go ahead and pull up my script. Well, not my script, but my notes. This ain't CNN, so I'm not going to read to you from a script, parroting things like the CIA wants you to. That's not going to be the case. I can promise you that. The thing is, I was supposed to talk about this last week, but the problem was I didn't get the chance to, and I had to keep rescheduling. But thank God tonight I'm able to get in touch with it again, and I'm able to touch base on this subject, and we're able to catch up and get this out of the way. So we're talking about a few things. So as you guys know, I normally read Reason magazine. It is a libertarian news magazine, really good one. They give you their perspective, of course, on issues like this, about fiscal things, and of course social issues and all that. And I also like using ground news. So there are times you're going to see me pull up articles from ground news, getting data, statistics from them, because they're good at fact checking who is lying and who's telling the truth. So that's very important. That's very important that we make sure we get our news updates factually correct. So I'm using my tablet right now. I'm going to try to find a way to share screen in the future without using the YouTube's share screen feature, because this one is not good. This one definitely sucks, but there's all kinds of software you can use on this computer. You don't have to worry about all that. So we'll figure something out just to make it easy so I can show you guys what I'm looking at, what I'm reading, what I'm watching on YouTube. Makes life easier. So what's on today's agenda? We're going to start off, as you can tell from the title, I picked about 3 or 4 issues to talk about. Let's talk about Ed Martin. Okay, so this was, if you guys didn't know, this was Trump's nominee for U.S. Attorney for D.C. And he was going to make him the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. That was who he was going to appoint for the job. That nominee got dropped. Trump had to drop the nominee, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But the whole thing is, a lot of people think just because he's MAGA, they think that, he's a good guy. They think he's standing for truth and freedom. But the truth is, a lot of these MAGA people, they secretly are against free speech too. It can't get any worse than that. All right. This is all a psyop. Don't think that the left-right paradigm is about truth and right. It's a psyop, guys. So this guy, Ed Martin, I'll go ahead and read the article. It says here, President Donald Trump told reporters today, by the way, this was from last week. This was on the 8th. It says here, President Donald Trump told reporters today that he is dropping the nomination of Ed Martin to be U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia because of slipping Republican support for Martin in the Senate. It says here, he's a terrific person and he wasn't getting the support from people that I thought, Trump said at the White House. The news should be welcomed by free speech advocates or really anyone who dislikes bullies. Martin was a menace to the First Amendment and a loyalist who put his adoration of the president above his oath to the Constitution. So we already have a problem right here. This guy claims to be like this free speech, right-wing conservative guy, but he has a problem with the First Amendment. I mean, isn't that a lot of politicians? I mean, we do hear about the left attacking free speech, which I agree that's terrible. But don't be fooled. Even people on the right secretly will attack the First Amendment. It says here, doubts over Martin's nomination began to accumulate as news investigations uncovered his frequent appearances on far-right podcasts and Russian-backed media. Wow. Yeah, be careful with politicians who support Russia, which he had failed to disclose to the Senate. Trump appointed Martin as the acting U.S. Attorney for the D.C. in January. It's one of the most powerful federal prosecutor offices in the country, both because of its political proximity and because it handles DC's felony caseload. Martin, a Missouri Republican, was an organizer and fundraiser for the 2020 Stop the Steal movement, and later represented defendants charged with participating in the January 6th Capitol riot. It was quickly apparent that Martin was out of his depth as a U.S. attorney and wrapped in conflicts of interest. In one instance, he asked the court to dismiss the cases of a January 6th defendant whom he had previously represented. But once in office, Martin made himself useful as an attack dog for the president's agenda. He began using his new official letterhead to pen threatening and legally dubious letters to various enemies of the Trump administration. One of his first official acts was to threaten several Democratic lawmakers with criminal investigations for statements opposing Trump that were, while heated, protected speech under the First Amendment. So we got a problem here. Look, I'm going to make this clear, guys. As much as I dislike my opponents in politics, and you know what? As you guys already know, I hate both the left and the right-wing neocon movement. But I'm going to tell you this also. If there's one group I hate more, I'm going to admit, it's the leftards. I can't stand them. They just piss me off. Just because they're stupid. I can't have an intelligent, honest argument or debate with somebody, a formal debate with a woke left-wing retard that just doesn't know common sense left and right. I mean, seriously, I can't argue with people. If you're going to tell me that a man can become a woman, that a woman can become a man, and you don't understand what a fetus is, according to Latin, the definition for it, I can't take you serious. But guess what? Despite my strong dislike for both sides, even the left, I still give them their privilege to speak their mind, because this is America. You're allowed to speak your mind. And that's the point of the First Amendment, is that it protects free speech. And free speech entails the speech that you don't like. I mean, honestly, it's the truth, guys. It entails the speech that you hate, the kind of criticism that you dislike about yourself or your beliefs or your politics. So, again, I give them their right to do that. But this is what I'm really against, is the idea of no matter who your opponent is, you try to silence them for everything. That's not good faith. That's not... Listen, if you want to disprove somebody, all you have to do is have a debate with them. A civil, intellectual debate where you guys go back and forth explaining why you disagree with each other and why you think your position is correct and theirs is wrong. It's simple as that. But we live in a society that is not willing to do that. Rather, they want to take their anger out on you and silence you, especially in the media, because they feel threatened. And that's the point. People are so threatened. They feel threatened because you disagree, because you have a different worldview as them, or you have a different political affiliation as them. We hear the left talking all the time about, oh, you're against abortion, so I guess you hate women. I guess you, again, approve of what these people do to women and all this and that. Look, we're not calling for a mass genocide of women. That's not what we're doing. Again, all we're saying is that abortion is when you unalive a baby, and that's a terrible thing. And me, as a Christian, as an American citizen, I'm going to tell you why I disagree and why I think it should be outlawed. It's that simple. But no, you don't have to weaponize politics against people that disagree with you. I totally am against that. Let's continue. Martin also spent his time writing sycophantic letters to Elon Musk and threatening social media users for posting the names of employees of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. In April, Martin sent a letter to the nonprofit that runs Wikipedia, accusing the website of spreading foreign propaganda and suggesting its 501c3 status was in jeopardy. Martin announced in a March letter to the local law enforcement as part of his Make DC Safe Again initiative, his office would stand in court against the Public Defender Service and anyone who maligns our officers for sport of advantage unfairly. Martin said he would rewrite the office's policy of disclosing misconduct by police officers to defense attorneys. Prosecutors are required to disclose exploratory material to defense lawyers, including officers' misconduct and disciplinary history. Prosecutor officers usually maintain a list of officers with significant credibility problems. However, Martin wrote that the office will no longer allow judges or others to gratuitously damage your careers because of the outsized impact of inexact characterizations. Martin wants criminal defendants to know less about the credibility of police officers testifying against them. And so I'll go ahead and go a little further down because this is a pretty long article. As President Trump's lawyers, we are proud to fight to protect his leadership as our president, and we are vigilant in standing against entities like the AP that refuse to put America first, Martin wrote. Of course, Martin is not Trump's lawyer. Unlike Trump's private lawyers, he gets paid by taxpayers. But it was Martin's comments about January 6 defendants and his poor attempts to hide these comments that ultimately sunk his nomination. For example, Martin apologized in April for praising a pardoned January 6 defendant who was an avowed Nazi. Sorry, coughing here. And photographed himself posing as Hitler. Martin said he wasn't aware of the man's ideology. However, the Washington Post reported that Martin defended the man in videos and podcasts as late of 2003, describing him as a friend who had been smeared by allegations of anti-Semitism. And so the list goes on and on. So yeah, I'm not against turning down this guy's nominee. The moment you attack free speech, I don't trust you. If you're a person who is against free speech, you want to set bars and regulations on what you can say and what you can't say, I draw the line there. I see you as an infiltrator. I see you as a problematic person. I dislike that. Again, when it comes to the First Amendment, the founders never told us what the limits were. Obviously, you shouldn't use free speech to incite violence against people. Of course not. I don't agree with us doing that. We want to have a peaceful debate with people. We don't want to get violent with people. And as a Christian, I believe in being peaceful with people. It's that simple. Jesus said, be a peacemaker. That's it. But the founders never told us what kind of speech you can't do. They never said hate speech is wrong. They never said insulting people is wrong. They never said condemning LGBTQ is wrong. They never said anything like that. They just said, you have the right to speak your mind. That's it. As long as it's not criminal acts like, spreading false accusations against a person or inciting violence against a person, those things are wrong, yes. But other than that, everything else, it should not be weaponized against you. It's that simple. But yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys think of that. Do you think this is a great thing that he was dropped as the nominee for the U.S. attorney? Leave a 7 in the chat if you agree that it's the right thing to do. And if you disagree, leave another reason why you think it's wrong. Raphael says, absolutely. God bless, brother. I agree with you. So yeah, there was a lot going on last week. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I can't stand people that are like anti-free speech. I just can't. All right, so here's another article we're going to get into. We're going to talk about fiscal issues right now, budget issues. All right, so this is an article from the 8th last week. It's called Trump's New Budget is Another Blueprint for Big Spending. Trump's new budget is another blueprint for big spending. So it says here, Donald Trump's 2026 skinny budget is out. And at first glance, it gives small government advocates reason to cheer. It proposes deep cuts to domestic agencies, calls for eliminating redundant programs, and gestures toward reviving federalism by shifting, hold on one second, I see a pop-up on my tablet, by shifting power and responsibility back to the states. It promises to slash overarching woke initiatives and international handouts and abolish bureaucracies that have outlived their usefulness. But this budget is more rhetorical than revolutionary. As impressive as Trump's envisioned cuts are, 163 billion worth, they lose luster because the version of the budget being considered in Congress also calls for increases to defense and border security spending, as well as the extension of the 2017 tax cuts. And for all of its fiery declarations, the budget fails to truly confront the drivers of our fiscal crisis. Hold on. Raphael left a message in the chat. You were right about advocacy for violence. That's out of line. Yes, we should not use free speech to advocate violence against people. That's where we draw the line. But other than that, everything else, when it comes to free speech, there should be no limits. Just don't do criminal things when you do it. That's it. The budget thus thankfully enshrined the Department of Government Efficiency's acknowledgement that federal sprawl has become unmanageable. It proposes defunding environmental justice programs, trimming National Institute of Health and National Science Foundation budgets, slashing the Department of Education, and eliminating corporate welfare masquerading as climate policy. Trump's budget also boosts Homeland Security spending, propping up another sprawling bureaucracy. The president's high-profile and problematic approach to deportation, while politically popular with his constituency, costs a lot of money. As the Cato Institute's David Beyer notes, indiscriminate deportations risk shrinking the workforce, reducing tax revenue, and undercutting economic growth, all while ignoring the merit-based immigration reforms Trump claims to support. Finally, there's the ever-present elephant in the room, entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid make up nearly 60% of spending and are the main drivers of our debt, yet they are mostly untouched in the current fiscal sketch. The administration promises a more complete plan to later to show where the savings would be found, but we've heard that before. And House Speaker Mike Johnson said on Tuesday that Republicans would block some of the most effective approaches to cutting Medicaid, but the math is straightforward. Without serious entitlement reform, no discretionary spending cuts can avert a debt crisis. Yes, the new Trump budget has bright spots, but those gains are neutralized by massive defense spending, costly immigration priorities, and persistent gimmicks. At best, it maintains a flawed status quo. We don't need more of the same. We need evidence of a serious turnaround. Until that happens, we have little choice but to assume that Trump's budget is another big government blueprint in small government clothing. So here's the thing, guys. As we've read, there is a lot of government spending going on right now. We have an issue with inflation, taxation, all these things. What Trump is doing with the military, all this spending, it's going to cause a lot of inflation, more than ever before. We're already seeing problems with it. So, look, guys, Joe Biden was a problem. I agree. I didn't even like Joe Biden. I had to deal with the guy for 4 years straight, him being my president. You know, I don't even consider him my president because he was a piece of trash. And he was a bad economist, very terrible economist. Didn't know how to handle money, didn't know how to handle debts, inflation, none of that stuff. But here's the thing, guys. What Trump is doing is just adding to what Joe Biden did. He's just adding more wood to the fire. The tariffs, destroying everything. This military spending stuff, it's going to be a problem, which we're going to look at later, the whole military issue. Got a lot of problems, guys. So I'm saying, and here's another thing, and if you guys have been paying attention, even Republicans in Congress are messing with the government spending. All right? They're not helping. You know, people talk about, oh yeah, Republicans are great and Republicans are doing a great job to fix economy and all this and that. The ones in Congress are really messing up. Right? That's why Thomas Massie had to speak out. Thomas Massie spoke out about the whole spending issue, and Trump got really mad, and Trump said, hey, if I have to get rid of Thomas Massie in office, I'll do it myself. He wants him out of Congress. Thomas Massie had to stand out and say something. Who else will? Because all the other Republicans in Congress are kissing Trump's butt. They're all backing him with all this spending stuff. But Thomas had to stand out and be like, hey, I don't agree with this. I'm totally against this. And then he's seen as the troublemaker. It's so funny. Richard, what's up, man? Richard's in the live chat. He said, hey, Brother John. What's up, brother? God bless you, man. Thanks for tuning in. So like I was saying, guys, there's a lot of government spending right now. What Trump is doing is just adding more wood to the fire. That's all he's doing. He's just adding more wood to the fire. Don't get this idea that Republicans are going to make the economy better. They might have done some things good in the economy, but there's always something in the back burner that just makes the situation worse. Inflation, the economic crisis, you know, in terms of inflation, the stock markets, whatever. Some things he did right, but I guarantee you other things he's doing behind closed doors that people are talking about right now that most news media outlets won't speak about, it's only going to make it worse for us in this economy. We need a president like Javier Milei, because President Milei has done a great job of fixing the economy in Argentina. That's the kind of leadership we need in this country. That's a good economist. All right, so yeah, leave me a 7 in the live chat if you agree that Trump's spending plan is a bad idea. Just let me know. And if you disagree, leave a 0. Yep, Richard says 7. Thank you, brother. God bless. All right, I guess we got time for one more article. I'm going to have to obviously jump at certain points because we're running out of time. And I want to rush into this. I'm trying to keep it at 30 minutes tonight. Yeah. Raphael said, not shocking that the last few presidents did overspending. Yep. Yeah, we had some economic issues in the past. I think even with George Bush, we had some economic issues. I think we had a debt with him. And I think Obama was just adding more wood to the stove when it came to that. So I'm pulling up another article. This will be the last one. This is the shortest one, actually. It's called Trump Wants to Increase Military Spending by $113 billion. I mean, that's a lot. Listen to that. Trump wants to increase military spending by $113 billion. We got a problem on our hands. President Donald Trump. Okay, so this article was on the 5th of last week. President Donald Trump has unveiled his budget request for the next fiscal year. The outline, which is unlikely to be enacted, recommends cuts to many agencies and programs. But it also wants a 13% increase for the Pentagon, among other things, to fund the F-47 Next Generation Air Dominance Platform, which the White House calls the most advanced, capable, and lethal aircraft ever built. Here's another thing, right? Yeah, we're talking about, you know, big budget spending. But notice this has a lot to do with warfare also. Guys, don't ever be pro-war. This kind of stuff only fuels the military industrial complex. And if you don't know what the military industrial complex is, start doing your homework. Look into Eisenhower, okay? Read all his quotes about the military industrial complex, and then we'll talk about it. Guys, this is no joke. This is some big government stuff. This is a new world order agenda. This is the kind of stuff that, again, causes foreign wars. It fuels the banker wars, and it causes genocide in these foreign countries, and it's a terrible thing. We already saw what these foreign wars did to places like Gaza, Palestine, and obviously I do feel bad for people that were harmed in Israel during the war. But let me tell you something, Bibi did a lot more damage to Palestine and Gaza. Do your research. He has harmed a lot of people, probably far worse than that whole situation. And both sides, don't get me wrong, both sides are wrong. Bibi, IDF, and Hamas, they're all wicked. But there was a lot of genocide that took place in Gaza. It's a terrible thing, and it happened among women and children. And churches were bombed in that situation. Trump's budget request would cost taxpayers $1.613 trillion, the same amount as last year's budget. That's a lot of money. Leave a 7 in the chat if you think that's a lot of money. The money would not go to the same places, though, under the new proposal. Only 4 arms of the government would receive more money than they did in fiscal year 2025. An additional $42.3 billion for the Department of Homeland Security, a nearly 65% increase. $1.5 billion more for the Transportation Department, $5.4 billion more for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and $113 billion more for the Department of Defense. This is crazy, guys. The proposal specifies that the Pentagon's money should be spent on developing a Golden Dome for America, a missile defense system, on expanding shipbuilding, on U.S. space dominance, on modernizing the nuclear arsenal, on a 3.8% pay raise to servicemen, and on the F-47 fighter aircraft. Those thousands of F-35s are supposed to be in service until 2088. That's a long time, raising questions about why we need to invest in its replacement more than 6 decades ahead of time. That's my chair, just so you guys know. I gotta get a gaming chair. I hate these chairs, these folding ones. What's more, the U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff, Gen. David W. Alvin, announced in March that the country will be leaning into a new chapter of aerial warfare with General Atomics, YFQ-42A, and Underill's YFQ-44A unmanned fighter aircraft. Why exactly are we committing untold billions to develop a manned 6th-generation fighter? This is crazy, guys. Again, we're seeing a lot of taxpayer cuts involved in this. Our taxpayer money is going to these military-grade weapons, these fighter jets. It's insane. Again, number one, this is fueling, warfare. 2, it fuels big government. 3, it fuels the military-industrial complex. And number 4, it has a lot to do with just, you never know. It's like a new world order thing. Call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. This is a new world order agenda, guys. So again, obviously what we're talking about is an economic issue. This is a fiscal problem because our taxpayer money is going to it. But not only that, this is fueling warfare propaganda. So again, guys, there's a lot going on. Trump is making bad decisions when it comes to fiscal things, warfare issues, all that stuff. And I heard this week that he wants to make peace with Palestine now. I don't know. This is just, supposedly he got tired of fighting with Yemen, and he I guess he stopped fighting with Yemen. There's an agenda going on. There's a psyop going on, guys. Don't be fooled. stay awake. Be aware of your enemy. Know your enemy. This left-right paradigm stuff, they all work together for evil. All right. So again, at the end of the day, vote wisely, pick and choose the right leaders. And when you have a complaint about something going on in the government or a concern about something, write to your leaders and explain to them how you feel about why their decisions are not right. Make sure you do that. I'll do the same. And let's be wise, guys. Let's be careful. This is crazy. So again, I appreciate you guys getting on the stream. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Raphael says change your rep. Yep, you're right. And I really appreciate you guys, again, getting involved with the live stream and just talking, leaving messages in there. But God bless you all. Have a good evening, and I'll see you in the next live stream. God bless.